running into too many issues yet. So let's go. All right, my
Fingers.
stream is up. I also was able to figure out how to set it to talk shows and podcasts category. That's what I'm under
Ooh,
because
all
that's
right.
what I'm officially calling this as a podcast.
We feel official now.
You should. Welcome, 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 everybody. No one's on, but I'm just gonna say it like that. Pulp.
Yeah.
Holy crap. This book is so good. Um yeah, Manny's process edition is so sick. Ben, definitely take a look at Manny's copy on his stream when you get a second. Cause it is rad. Manny, I always have to watch ads when I click your stream, you son of a bitch.
Sorry, guys.
It's almost like he's got 200 followers or something.
Yeah, he's big time.
Moving up in the world, fellas.
That was something I was gonna like. Manny, you have the process edition. Kevin, are you reading what I'm reading, like that standard paperback?
Yeah, I think this is the first pressing of the paperback, so I don't know if you have like a second edition or whatever, but not that there's any value in a trade paperback, but
It is a second printing.
there you go. I pretty much just like vacuum up whatever they got on the racks. I will just buy. If I see Brubaker, I'm just like, all right, I'm buying it. He's the best.
Pretty much.
All right. So normally we kind of talk how we ran into this, and Kev, you are the guy that turned me onto this. And I don't know, did you get it from Manny? Did you discover this on your own? How'd you come across it?
I feel like I was literally just in a comic book store looking for Brubaker's name.
Yeah.
That was basically it. I just went,
what happened.
I looked across the entire shelves and just like picked up a stack of books that like just like I bought because I had like missing issues of like Criminal and Fatale and like Kill or Be Killed. So I bought all those. I bought the 3 trades of the Fade Out. I bought this. I don't think Reckless had come out yet, but yeah, I just bought like probably like 7 or 8 different Brubaker and Phillips books that I was just missing from my collection all at once. Yeah. I can tell you, like, basically how I got put onto them was kind of by proxy through Manny. We were at a comic book store in Raleigh that is no longer exists. It was called what, like Midtown What was that spot called?
I think it was Fight or Flight Comics.
Fight or Flight Comics. And they just like,
something like that.
You know, and Manny and I we grew up together, so we like both really like Spider-Man and stuff. But so Manny was back into comics. You know, it was probably my freshman year of college, maybe. That sounds about right. And he was like, "No, dude, comics are like so different. Like you can find anything." And then I was on the shelf, and it was right when Fatale's first volume came out. I didn't buy that, but I was looking at Criminal, and I bought the first volume of Criminal. And I read that shit, and I was like, this is the greatest comic book I've ever read. And granted, I was pretty limited in scope as to what I had read in comics, but like that was the book that just put me full send on this journey. And I collected what I could when I was living out in LA. And then came back and yeah, just obsessively hoarded Brubaker and Phillips books. They're like, the way I buy comics is just kind of following creators. And they're the first where I was like, no, these are the ones. These are for me, exclusively for me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, dude. I mean, plus Ed Brubaker writes in such like a easy way, or like not an easy way, but he writes in a way to where you can just read it so easily and fly through it like a pulp book. Oh,
exactly.
But like also the fact that it's noir, you know, I know Kevin's mentioned this before, where it's just sad man looks out window. It's a lot of that, but it's great. It's also fun, and then the Sean Phillips putting his like strong design like ideas to use his theories on that and everything, and using strong blacks and positive negative shapes and everything, which really fits the mood entirely for all the stuff that they're doing.
100%. I think Sean Phillips is also part of the reason why they're so readable, because like he really knows how to balance like when to be minimal and when to go all out. So there are like certain pages where it's just like these minimal like silhouettes of faces, and like kind of contemplative staring and like, you know, sexy like silhouettes and shit like that. And like you just kind of fly through those pages because it's just that coupled with whatever kind of like rhythmic beat poetry thing that Brubaker's doing on top of like some sort of musing. It just has a rhythm and a pace that you can really just chew through. I mean, the first page is just like all black with this one bloody panel.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, so I have to thank both of you because I had not heard of Pulp until we started doing this. And so, you know, Kev, you and I were just at Acme over the weekend. And so I had to make sure I purchased this and quickly, like I typically don't read trade paperbacks, even though I have to say, like, this isn't the biggest trade paperback that, you know, is out there on the shelf. But I blew through this. And so much so that last night I read through it again because I was like, wow, the story is so good. It took me places like I had no idea where the story was going. I love it. It definitely has a lot of twists and turns. And one thing that I do have to say is I probably have the best version out of everyone because mine has the Will Eisner Award winner seal on the front cover. So you guys are missing out.
I forgot that this book won the Eisner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Manny's process edition is something of magic.
I'm jealous. The process edition, number one, it's got that perfect binding to it, the nice hardcover.
Oh yeah,
the script.
I mean, just the inner pages, like the inner cover and stuff too. I'm pretty sure this was all designed by Phillips as well.
I'm gonna pull up your stream on a different tab so I can flip between them.
Oh yeah, go ahead. But I mean, I just love how he just puts the artistry into it, and he in this whole thing, like they open up with the introduction, Ed Brubaker talking about, you know, kind of being timid about like putting out his process is like, I don't know what I'm doing or whatever, you know, his claim. He definitely does, but he starts out writing the story on these like bullet points basically on his notebook, and then later on goes back in and figures things out in script on his like MacBook Pro or whatever on his computer, just types it all up. But at first, like Sean Phillips contacts Ed Brubaker, is like, hey, I want to do a Western. Ed Brubaker's just like, all right, bud, I got you. And he's like, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. Because Sean Phillips was like, I don't want to draw cars, and yet we have cars in this story.
Yeah, there's not a lot, but there's some cars.
Yeah,
most of that robbery scene.
Yeah, there's like a few scenes in that, especially being in New York City and stuff. But funny enough though, like Ed Brubaker goes out to a beach with his wife and his family, and then I guess he gets swept up in the current, and he's like basically fearing for his life. And he's like, is this it? Is this how I'm going to go out in a current? And then somebody saves him. He gets back up on shore, and I guess that kind of like prompts the idea of, of pulp in a way, is like that near death experience. And then like, how would I like, leaving my wife behind with whatever, like dealing with all that stuff. And then also Nazis are becoming a thing. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And then all this like anger and this hate that he's seeing in the world and stuff, and getting older or whatever, it all like basically comes out through pulp in a way. He just like takes everything that he's experiencing and then he puts it in a Western book, coming up with almost an idea of Bad Weekend. If anyone's read Bad Weekend, originally he thought about doing something like that, and then he's like, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to tread that ground again. Let me go at it from a different perspective. Maybe the outlaw or maybe the guy writing was the outlaw before, and now he's like kind of rewriting history in a way to try and make it into these comics for newspapers and stuff, or for this publisher, which I do want to say that I feel like the publisher in the book is kind of like a nod towards Stan Lee and his his cousin's husband or something that owned Marvel at one time.
Oh yeah, before it was like, Marvel.
Yeah. I forget his name, but But yeah, like he was, because he introduces the writer to, oh, this is my nephew that's going to be writing your books now. And I was like, that's got to be like a nod towards that old school shit right there. So, but I mean, we go back into this. Ed Brubaker talked about that stuff, and then the cover idea, which I thought was interesting, that they kind of use the cover as a movie trailer, is how they kind of describe it. So, I mean, it also is reminiscent of the old Drew Struzan posters, I feel like. You know, the Indiana Jones, old Star Wars stuff. Those old illustrations. I feel like he's pulling from that a bit. But even so, we see even more process with it. And he's using all these different techniques too. It's like very hybrid. He's going traditional, and he's going back in it with traditional, digital, traditional, whatever. But at first, he figures out the logo, which I thought was interesting. And speaking of Sean Phillips right now, Sean Phillips figures out the logo, and he's combining two different eras of logos. There's the woodcut that you can see.
Just looking at that. I've been staring at the lettering, how there's like the nested font with kind of the modern sans serif in there. I think
and then he combines that sans serif, so it's literally the story happening within the font itself.
That clash of modernity and classicism, like
yes. So I thought that was amazing. So he figures out the layout of how the book is going to be, just like in this 2-page spread or this front and back cover thing, and then just doodles trying to figure out the cover. Goes back in it. Now he's doing his like pencils, combines a whole bunch of textures, starts going into Clip Studio, uses Clip Studio, starts rendering out the character, and then boom, we got the cover. It's just that easy, really, guys.
Just so simple.
I have an idea and then I draw it, and I'm just not a pussy like everyone else. I'm just good at art. I don't know what the problem is.
And in 6 months, I would be happy with what I finally created. But,
Well, what's crazy, like they mention it in the back matter with Sean Phillips, but Sean Phillips has been drawing comics since he was 14. Professionally, not like he started noodling when he was 14. He started getting paying gigs for British comics like companies when he was 14, and then started drawing Marvel when he was like 18. Like,
dude, the whole Phillips family are young, like comic book people, are just artistic people. Because like you said, he was 15. Jacob was 11.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
No way.
And like truly,
and then his
like
kid's gonna be 9. No,
and like eventually we're gonna get to where the kid's just like out of the womb and like drawing comics.
He's ready.
Brubaker and Phillips have been doing books together since like probably like the late 90s, early 2000s. I want to say. I don't remember when.
Really, it goes back that far.
Criminal, because Criminal was like released on. It wasn't Vertigo. It was a different publisher. It was one of them like ones that was like sort of owned by Marvel and then got sold off when Marvel went bankrupt in the late 90s. And like Criminal's first few issues were there, and then they got the rights back to Criminal, and then they sold Criminal afterwards. Then got it to Image, and then started releasing more and more volumes of it, essentially. And like all that is to say, like they were releasing comics for almost a decade without Jacob, and their comics with Jacob are just miles better, which is crazy to say because they were already like masters at their craft. But like Jacob's coloring just is ascendant, like just
gorgeous,
next level. Like it just breaks all the rules. Like I love the messiness. There's certain ones where it's like the faces aren't even like cleanly colored in. It's just that like swatch of just like across his face, and it just looks so good.
I honestly, I'm excited to talk about some of the certain sequences that Jacob colored, because anything that shows flashback, like if you think about it, and I don't want to rush because I know, Manny, you're still going through the process side, but we'll just definitely get to the color. It's so fantastic.
Oh yeah. But I mean, with the process stuff, we go from seeing some of the thumbnails for the cover, seeing how the cover is made, the logo, a bit of the raw script, and now we're getting on the left page is the script. On the right page is the translation from that script to pencils. And Sean Phillips is lettering in that penciling stage, probably in the layout stage, honestly, or the thumbnail stage, and then pencils right there. But he figures out where the lettering is going to go, how much room he needs to leave, and then we're just flowing immediately.
I love that you brought that up too, because like I heard Brubaker was listening to an interview with him, and he was talking about how like Sean will get mad at him because he'll like get his pages back, and that he's already like laid out and drawn around, and then Ed is like, I want to change the dialogue and like rewrite a bunch of stuff.
He doesn't he doesn't hand letter on the page, so I feel like that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he learned his lesson. I bet he did hand letter at one point and was like, nah, this will just be ready to swap things out.
But he does like have this layout for the pencils with the lettering and stuff, and then with the inking, we'll see later on that it's still there. It's like it's almost pretty faint, but the lettering is still there, and then he just scans it and then drops it in where it's supposed to go, and it's a finished page. But his process is just streamlined, but he's hybrid, right? So he's penciling in Clip Studio, he's figuring out the layouts and stuff in Clip Studio Paint, then he prints it out on various sizes, sometimes 11 by 17, sometimes he draws stuff on separate pieces of paper, inks it, scans it in, and then starts coloring it. And we see some Jacob Phillips coloring right there. And with the coloring, how he gets those textures is with a brayer. So he just rolls out all these different textures on pieces of paper or whatever, gets those different combinations and stuff, and then they just scan them in and try to use like more textured stuff for the backgrounds. And yeah, it's beautiful, super beautiful. But yeah, dude. I mean, I love this. I love seeing those raw inks too. How like messy it gets. It's very just like little drops for heads, you know. Basically,
I love all this stuff in the front of the book you're showing with all the solicits and like the promo pages that they were doing. That is really cool.
Great. Yeah, Ed Brubaker. It's got the the ads essentially. It's so good.
This book is just such, like we were saying before, just such an easy read. It's just always print the legend is
I love that as a tagline.
Oh, that's so good.
And then we get a whole spread of thumbnails right here. So we're just looking at how he's just scribbling away. He's not worried about detail. He's not worried about accuracy. He's just figuring out the bigger picture on a smaller scale, figuring out where that lettering is going, how it's going to read, and then he can go from there. But he marks pages or panels to where he's going to be using photo reference as well. So a lot of stuff you'll definitely, if you follow Sean Phillips, you'll notice characters that look like Sean Phillips because it is Sean Phillips.
Yeah, he's just like literally like that kind of like squared off head that most characters have is like directly like Sean Phillips's head. It's
if anyone's got glasses, it's him.
Yeah. You can catch it in like bursts in like certain books. It was really apparent in Criminal. Like a bunch of the protagonists in Criminal just are Sean Phillips, which I love.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like a Bad Weekend, the main character in that one. Oh my gosh, it's just him.
Yeah, that whole character, because he's the counterfeiter guy, right, in Criminal.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's the cartoonist and stuff. Just drawing himself. Oh man. And then we literally get a photo. Literally a photo of the area right there. And then he just inks it later on.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that was his process for that. That's so cool. For the copy that I have, the back of the trade is that inked photo.
Mm-hmm.
The silhouette of the skyline.
Yep. These are so great. So clean, and he's literally drawing right through the bodies and everything. He's not going to be guessing where anything's going. He just cleans it up later.
So since we're on the page where it's starting to show some of the flashback stuff, how thin are those pen lines on like his background?
How thin are they? They're probably the same.
That's something I know. Once we get into the book itself, there are a lot of things that I find really intriguing about some of the treatment that he does to the backgrounds, and I don't want to jump the gun because I want to make sure we're following along. But I was just curious on the process side.
Yeah, the details in the background, like the paneling on the wood and stuff, or on the building, is definitely thinner and whatever. So he's definitely still following rules for background stuff, and like whatever's in the foreground is going to have thicker lines, as you can see on the dude in the foreground right there. He's got the thickest line of them all. So thick, but
so thick,
so thick.
He's so big.
God,
There's one thing though I thought was interesting when we're looking at inks. Oh, here we go. We see Sean Phillips right here with a cigar. He just made himself a little fatter though. That's the difference.
Just added gray hair and wrinkles so you wouldn't know it was him.
Yeah, you don't know. It's not him. But the interesting thing that I saw was with Sean Phillips's inks. He'll ink everything and have like hard edges on the panels and stuff. But when he puts it in the computer and gets it ready for colors, he basically erases that line out and just puts the gutters in, just paints them in basically. So there's space between every panel, which I thought was interesting. I was like, maybe I'll try that out instead of trying to get a perfect like panel shape or whatever immediately. I feel like that probably saves him a lot of time.
Dude, his whole thing is that he like draws faster than like anybody. Like he's at a point.
What, 2 books a year? 2 or 3 books a year?
I mean, Reckless, they did 5 books in 2 years.
Wow.
So like it gets to a point where literally, like he's begging Ed to give him more pages. He's like, I got to keep drawing. Where's my pages? Basically, like how often does that really happen? Where the writer is just like, I can't keep up with my artist.
I have to say that's a very infrequent thing. I'm sure.
Dude, seriously.
And that's like part of what keeps their like working relationship going. And they're also the only creators at Image who basically just have like complete approval to make whatever they want. Like they don't run really anything past Image. They're like, this is what we're doing, and then they just do it. Like that is like, they're like, yeah, we want to put 5 books out in a pulp series about like a Private Eye, and they're like, yeah, that sounds great. When is it coming out? And they're like, tomorrow. And then they're like, sounds good. It's like,
tomorrow. He already did it.
And like that's on top of like, it was 5 Reckless books and then Night Fever. And then that was like the end of that was the beginning of 2023, and then at the end of 2023 they did Where the Body Was. So they just don't stop.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And they do full graphic novels. They don't even care about single issues. They're like, nope, just straight to hardcover. Like, please and thank you. Because they're
Manny,
oh, go ahead, Ben.
In the process edition, because I see you're flipping through there, and when you go through the actual pulp book, like we were talking about, there's so many pages where there's just heavy black shading and casting. But when I'm looking at the process pages, it looks like there's very little of him just filling in or showing. Typically, if you're going to show a black fill, you'll do the little X's through it to show like this is filled. How does he indicate that at all on the page?
He'll do that a lot.
Yeah. He does some X's here and there.
Okay.
And I'm sure he probably uses like the lasso tool or whatever if he wants some stuff figured out. I feel like he probably inked this panel because it's a different color. I feel like he probably inked this panel, messed up or whatever, wanted to change something, scanned it back in, and was like, all right, let's do that again, but with a different pencils.
God, I love his inks. I love how messy and crazy they are.
Yeah, But I mean, they're messy, but they're not. You know what I mean?
No, like the amount of bleeding that he does with them is like very deliberate and intentional and like perfect.
So great. It's got some grit.
Like on mine, I was looking at that page where he's sitting around the campfire as the cowboy, and like there's just these like smears of shadows kind of running across his legs, and it's so good. I love that panel.
Fantastic. So good. I'll just speed up.
Yeah, well, we can. Yeah, this is the process, but we can go back into the story itself. Ben, what do you want to talk about? I know you must have thoughts.
I'm so excited. So you go to the start of the book, and the start of the book, I think, to me, it definitely feels almost Frank Miller-esque, where you get. I wouldn't say it's not Frank Miller text, right? If Frank Miller was writing this book, the entire page, like anywhere that was blacked out, would all be text. That's just the way Frank Miller is. But I love just that stark contrast between this is what's going on. We're going to give you a little backstory and send you right into it. And there's something with this layout that Sean has done, and it only happens 3 times throughout the entire story, and it happens to the 3 like focus characters. I wouldn't call them main characters, but they're the ones that get the most amount of story in the book. But I love just the starkness, and it really kind of sets the tone for the entire book. Main character, all black panel. It is really the thing that gets you into the book and kind of sets everything up for what's going to happen later on.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I just love that idea of that first line. I can tell you when it all started. On the day I almost died for the 3rd time. Like, that's and then I love that line. But that's what life is, right? A bunch of beginnings piled up on top of each other. All the chances you had to not mess it up.
Oh, dude, that line. All the chances you had to not mess it up. Like that one immediately got me into it. Because I'm like, especially seeing how old the guy is, I'm like, oh, that's so much that hits home so much. Like, how many regrets does a person have? And I love the fact that you get kind of the start of his adulthood and the end of his life. It's kind of the 2 polar opposites, right? Here's the beginning of what I came to be, and here's how I ended up.
And I love that he's consistently the same person throughout it. I'm sure there's ebbs and flows and evolution that we don't see, especially with the time they kind of like delve into like what went on in Mexico and stuff like that. But like when he's a kid and he's the Red River Kid or the Red Rock Kid, I forget which one is his actual name. Yeah, the Red Rock Kid was his name on the wanted poster. Like he is like he's at the end of the American West. He is like the last kind of outlaw that there is. And then he's seeing the end of an era. And then when we move into the 30s, it's right after the Depression. It's the end of another era. It's the dawn of modern fascism. I love that parallel so much.
I do want to jump in there too. Ed Brubaker, his grandmother apparently lived or was born in 1890, and then she lived to be 102 years old. So she saw a lot of transformation happen over those years, right?
That's crazy.
So that's another thing Ed Brubaker was thinking about when he was writing this. I didn't take note of that, but it just popped in my head. But yeah, his grandma basically lived through another lens, right? Doing it the right way. Besides this guy, she did it right.
Yeah, that was something that I found that was kind of a mystery to me, right? And a lot of pulp things, there's a mystery that you're trying to uncover. Because you go from that dark page, and then it kicks off with New York, February 1939. And then you, from 1939, are just thrown into this Western. And this, hits the pulp in another way, which is the story that he's writing, which is very self-referential. But this is a thing that I've been waiting to talk about. Since they are almost memories, they're things that happened to him as as a young man. And looking at him, the characters, this goes to what you're talking about, Manny, how they're so chunky, but there's still detail. And I love how red his shirt is. This goes to Jacob's colors. When you think about memories, when you're reminiscing about things, the background is so unimportant. It's so like, yeah, it was a Western city. So looking at the background, I love how thin and the lack of detail in lines. Like you'll see kind of these blobby bodies without a lot of definition. And really, it's whoever he is focused on and himself in the story. And that red shirt, I love how saturated that red is because it's like, oh, I can remember that red. That was like the reddest shirt I ever had. Now, thinking about like the Old West, it was probably dingy and grubby and nasty, right? Because they didn't have modern laundry facilities then. But just that juxtaposition, and it really, the colors, that grittiness that Jacob puts into it. I love the flashbacks. Like to me, the rest of the story is cool, but I love the pulpy flashback dream stuff. It's so fantastic from an artistic perspective to give all the feelings of him reminiscing, but kind of putting his own spin on things too.
Just to like let you know too, Ben, like Jacob Phillips does that in all the books. Like just the way these textures and bleeding colors and going crazy. Like there's, if you like this, good news. There's like at least 12 other books that are exactly like it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and
it's sick.
Just to shout, Jacob's praises. I've been reading the Einfeld Gang Massacre, and it's his. Like he's doing.
Yeah, it's him and Chris Condon, right?
Oh my gosh. Like if you love Westerns and you want like a straight up Western story, it is phenomenal. I recommend. But back to Pulp.
Yeah, back to Pulp. Yeah. I love how gritty, dirty, brushed over, messy. Like it implies the dirtiness of the Old West and that cloudiness, like kicking up a dust cloud, but also like the smeariness of a pastiche of memories. Like, I come back to the way he colors this face up here, how it's just completely like bleeding out over the lines and just smudgy and weird. Like I don't know, that, and the way that he like doesn't create any color difference in eyes. Like there's no whites in eyes. It's just like looks hollow. Like this panel down here in the corner where it's just his, like that one open eye that you catch out of the firelight and he's just drinking and full of regret. Like you just feel it all right there. That's so good. It's so good. And then turn the page and it's cold, it's gray, it's blue. And it's the filing cabinets in a cramped office. It's like the exact opposite of the Old West. It's chef's kiss. Brock, what's up? How you doing, bud? Brock's in my chat. We are also hanging out in Manny's chat. Oh, Brock's over there now. Hell yeah. Brock's over there. He's over here. He's over there. Most of my chat is just me sitting and listening to you guys. So it's like I don't have the most engaging stream, but that's fine. Hot damn.
But dude, can I tell you how much I love seeing some, and I didn't look this up. I should have done my research, but maybe Manny or Kev, you can tell me. When he's talking to the editor of the Six Gun Pulp magazine, like you see a screen, it almost looks like they took a literal old Western cover, and just photoshopped it over. I swear it's like I've seen that image before, or he just recreated something so perfectly that it just has all that feeling of an old Western magazine.
Yeah, it's literally that.
I feel like he probably mimicked it, but he could have collaged it in. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't look it up, but yeah, that did stand out to me too. Where it's just the magazine that basically inspired Sean Phillips to do covers the way he does.
I love that they shout out Howard Chaykin and Conan there. Howard did this exact thing with Conan and no one complained.
Yep.
Well, and can I tell you, like it definitely shows. Again, it puts you in the mindset of the era that we're in 1939, and they're talking about the rates, and it's like, we Westerns are out. We got to cut down on our expenses. So our rates are down to 2 cents a word. And like that hits me too. I'm like, oh my God. I often think like, man, I need to like get another job or like be able to afford more things. But if I was working for like 2 cents a word and having to write stuff, it literally was killing me reading that. And then what happens later on when we're looking at the main character, it's like, yeah, I can see, Max really this affecting his health as well.
And like one thing that's interesting about that too is at this point contextually in history is like they don't really mention it in this book, but this is like when the Western starts to die off for audiences, like in the Nickelodeons and the movie theaters, and like the adventure films kind of die off, like the Douglas Fairbanks kind of pirate movies and stuff like that. And this is really when crime films start to take hold, like the early gangster films as we're transitioning out of the silent era is what is popular like in the mainstream at this point. And so that applies. It's not even discussed. Like there's no like allusions to that about, oh, now all the kids want gangster things, but that is what's happening. So like not only did the Old West die out, not only is this old man dying, but like the worldview no one cares about, and that is also dying off. Like the taste for his life doesn't even matter anymore. Like he's just going completely out of style, basically.
It's wild, man.
Oh,
so good.
And I often feel, and Manny, you from the artistic side as well, there's times where I want to draw something, I want to put a lot into it, but then it's like, oh, there's so much story that we need to actually fit. Like written word has to go on this page as well. So that shot of him with like walking through the downtown New York with the train in the background or the railway in the background and everything, it's like I can see where he kind of cut back on some of the detail because he knew like, all right, I want to really show everything off. So all the set dressing is pretty much pushed to that left-hand side with Max being your focal character walking down the street. Very cinematic, right? You're wanting to show your character center frame. And then all
this
that
little red
dialogue.
tie.
Yeah, with the little like again that homage to him as a kid, right? Wearing the red shirt. So
well, even just having that like stark all black, but then putting the highlight on his face so that white of his like grayness and oldness really sticks out. Like you catch the solitude of the head there is just well done.
It's just like Bruce Wayne when he has the stash, that's what I think of. I don't know why. Before he shaves it off.
And like also like even though it is kind of something to draw like attention away by having these like obscured signs and kind of faded like lettering, like the bean pot up here, like you don't have to read what's going on here. And truly like the detail doesn't matter, but it's also like adding to that faded and obscurity kind of context. It's just there's some like writing, art, like they're just Brubaker films, they just make perfect books. Like they just do everything right. Dude, it drives me crazy. Like I read it, I'm just like, well, this is the greatest book I've ever read. And I read the next one and I'm like, well, this is the greatest book I've ever read. Like they just level up over and over again. It's crazy. They're just masters at their craft and they deserve, I think, what does it say in the back? Brubaker has 5 Eisners and 5 Harveys. Like, fuck
no
off.
Big deal.
Well earned. Oh my gosh. This is my first Brubaker book, but if all of them are like this, which you guys have attested they are, I'm like, gosh, yeah.
You want to talk about books you can borrow, dude? I have, you know what I'm saying? all of them.
Pretty sure.
I'm just missing a couple Reckless books, but that's because I go to the comic store and I'm like, which ones do I have? I don't even remember. So that's on me.
I have one right over here, by the way. That's yours.
Yeah, you have the first one. That's just called Reckless.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna get them all. That's why they had Night Fever and Acme, and I was like, well, I'm gonna read that too, of course.
Yeah, might as well.
Yep. That one's good. I will say that it's not my favorite of theirs, but it's very good, very good. Pulp might actually be my favorite. I just think it's Night Fever is fun. It's like not to talk too much about that book, but basically the premise is that it's a writer going on tour. Well, not a writer. He's like a bookseller, and he goes to Paris for like a book conference, and he can't sleep, so he goes out at night and then like stumbles into a masquerade party and pretends to be another person, befriends this like European lunatic who's like, your American life is so boring, let's do drugs and have sex and go crazy out in those streets. And then that guy turns out to be an assassin. And it just like devolves into complete chaos, of course, with like drugs and stuff. Yeah, it's a blast.
I think I heard that when Sean was putting together a reference, I think Ed was just like, oh, we're gonna put it in where Angoulême was basically taking place, the big Comic-Con over there, right? And I guess Sean Phillips had just nothing but photo reference of like those streets and everything.
It's actually the inverse, because they were coming off of 5 Reckless books. So for like 3 straight years, Sean Phillips was just drawing Los Angeles from the 80s and 90s. And he was like, dude, can you please write something that takes place in a place that I actually know what it looks like and I've been to before? Yep. And so he's like, okay, I'll set a book in Europe. So, because that's the crazy thing. Imagine working with somebody this much and like you rarely see them in person. They're just in England and you live in LA. Like, that's it.
That's wild, man. That's wild. That's got to be flying out there.
I mean, I'm sure, and, they do cons and stuff, but I was listening to the same thing with Chip Zdarsky, because he does Batman with Jorge Jimenez, who's based out of Spain. Like, he's pumping out a monthly Batman title, and like sees the guy like once every 3 years or something. It's nuts to me. It's nuts.
That's crazy.
That was what we were talking to Ben Roberts about. He was like, yeah, I've never written a book where I have actually like been in the same room with the guy who's doing the art. Yeah. Just like, or even spoken the same language, basically.
That's wild. Yeah, he's talked about that with me too. But man, the artist that he was working with, though, forget his name. So with a G.
It's like Lorenzo or something like that. I don't even remember. He's good though. The Children of the Damned is good. Or Children of the Grave.
He's a great artist. Super great artist.
But anyway, now that I'm looking at this page in Pulp, the fact that it's a bunch of guys, like a bunch of Aryan guys picking on a Jewish guy, is rad. Yep. Like, just like what a way to like sprinkle in a little bit of a foreshadowing as to what this book is actually going to be about.
Dude, I know. It's just like, here it is.
And it's so funny that he is like a cowboy, like literally a cowboy, and he's like, racism is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you stick up for the little guy, right?
Frontier justice.
All old westerns were. Yeah. Sticking up for the little guy.
I mean, that's what you'd like them to be, but
right.
There was a lot of racism going on. No one's gonna say John Wayne was not a racist.
What?
Whoa there, Pilgrim.
Oh my God.
Hey there, Pilgrim.
I do want to call out the one thing that I love on this page. Like, again, you kind of get it's a reminder you're in 1939, which kind of carries through just in the background. But that red panel where Max gets decked by the bully, I'm like, to me, you'll see gunshots and everything like that. To him, like, that's the modern day gunshot. He's this older man and he just gets decked by this young guy. And I love that flash of red, because it's like, oh yeah, shit, this hurts. This is not good.
Yeah. Last time I took a punch was probably in 1922. It hurts a lot more than I remember. And then I love the acting on the face where he's like truly like in pain when he's having the heart attack. Like, anytime you see the whites of somebody's eyes in a Brubaker and Phillips book, that means shit is real. It's going down.
Something's going on.
And then just all the way that he works the blacks in from panel to panel until it's just the complete blackout when he's knocked out. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
And then we get that dive back in the past.
And then this is when you finally make that connection that this is all about him, actually. Like, those stories are, dude, Brock, You're in for a treat, man, dude. I'm telling you. He says I've been meaning to get into the Brubaker Phillips stuff. Like,
oh, dude,
come step into the arena. Like, you literally, it's all good. Like, it's like where to start. Doesn't matter. Just pick one. They're all good.
Yeah.
If you're into more like hard pulp crime, go for Criminal. If you want a little Western thing, go for Pulp. Something more modern, go for Reckless. But they got a little bit of everything for everybody. I mean, Where the Body Was their newest book, which you'll probably see everywhere right now. It's more of like a romance, but with some pulp crime thrown in there. It's always like another genre, but then wearing a pulp crime hat.
Yeah. Isn't Fatale kind of like Lovecraftian?
Yeah.
In a way?
Fatale is like an erotic Lovecraft horror that's also a pulp crime book. Because it's like vampires and demons.
That's right.
Really saucy and sexy, but like
it is
also pulp crime.
What's that?
I mean, when you read his other stuff, like Brubaker stuff without Sean Phillips back in the Marvel days, like when he was doing Captain America, it's basically like espionage, pulp crime.
Gotham.
Yeah. Right? Gotham Central for DC. God,
Gotham Central.
That book is so good. Oh yeah, Brock, Gotham Central, read that. Sean Phillips is not on those. It's other guys, but like Kano does a bunch of them. But
yeah, they look great.
Those books are so good, and there's a lot of them. Fucking Riley has the hardcover omnibus of all of them, which is like completely out of print. That son of a bitch.
Oh, wow. Man.
But
I'm just looking at these like inks right now, and Sean Phillips actually uses all the tools that I use. So when I was going in the process, I was like, I have that. I literally use everything he uses.
Speed.
So he uses those zebra brush pens. These guys, these blue guys right here. He uses those Kuretake brush pens. These right here. He uses microns once in a while or whatever. Like he uses all the basic stuff. So everything I've been using lately is literally it. I'm like, all right, cool, found it.
I'm stealing one of your Kuratakis. I'm stealing one of your Kuratakis. I mean, I could go online and buy it, but I think it'd just be more fun to take it from you. Learning something.
Pride from my cold dead fingers, babe.
Brock, he also did Gotham Central should be on DC Unlimited. If you have DC Unlimited, find his run of Catwoman with Darwin Cook. Oh
wow.
Yeah. Darwin Cook only did like 5 issues, I think, of it, and then he like got a new artist on, but it's so good.
Darwin Cook, man. That's amazing.
Oh, the GOAT.
Forgot that was a thing.
When you're looking at these pages, this is where, from the process side, Manny, I was really wondering, because there's so many heavy blacks in here. The shading, the way that, again, he's doing all these flashbacks, so a lot of the faces are heavily toned out. It isn't until there's like key pivotal memories of, his brother being shot that you kind of get facial reactions and heavier detail. It's just anything that emits this real visceral memory. You see so much more detail brought into facial features or reactions. And I think that's fantastic. Because, normally an artist is like, all right, I'm going to draw, me riding on the front of the horse, somebody getting shot in the back, and it'll just look like, full detail, full character. But he really allows just visually this stuff to just breathe and resonate. And it's like, holy crap, I'm going to focus on this. There's so much more detail. I can see the pain of, his brother being shot in the back and and you just see him continuing to ride. Like, that's not the key thing. It's, his brother. And then the doctor, like, just how when he's getting the bullet removed out of his shoulder, you get all this. He definitely remembers that doctor and how the doctor almost butchered him. But so cool. I just love those little things where it's like, you can tell a story. You don't have to show everybody's face all the time. You can, allow the panel to tell the story, and you don't have to over illustrate everything.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of young artists too. They'll draw like me. We'll draw every leaf in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
But
you
literally,
said draw a forest, so I'm putting leaves. Like there are leaves in the
yeah.
forest.
Well, and like,
But he just blacks it out. He just uses that texture that brush pen just dabs those leaves on there, puts a strong stroke for the trees and the tree trunks, brushes up for some grass. Boom, there we go. We got a silhouette of a forest. We know where we are. Put the guys in the foreground. Boom, done. Like,
and that
it's crazy.
that
It's that simple.
efficiency is also like perfectly wrapped up in the writing too. Like,
Yeah.
like this whole sequence where he's talking about like, oh yeah, we were riding away, my brother died, I had to get a bullet dug out of me, I managed to survive, and then like, you know, obviously like a week passes by, I never felt the same again, and then a month later me and Spike went back and found the men who'd killed my brother, and after that my life rarely went down the roads that I expected it to. He's like conveying so much time and growth and character experience with just like this 2 pages of comics. You know, it's like, you know, 9 panels like telling this saga of like his life, and then it's just like right back to business as usual. And like Sean is just perfect at like capturing each one of those moments to make them last, make them have that impact, but again doing it even within that in such an economical way. Like it's so minimal, it's perfect. Like he's just exactly what he needs to do, and he's doing it every time. It drives me crazy how good he is.
Drives everyone crazy, actually. So,
dude, I'm not even kidding. I was listening. I haven't told you this, Manny, before, but for Ben and the rest of the audience, I was listening to Off Panel's interview with Joshua Williamson, who's doing like Cobra Commander and Duke and a bunch of stuff for DC. And he was literally like, dude, every time Brubaker releases a book, I buy it, and then I'm just like mad that I can't write that good. Like he's just the best. like he's, you know, the best in the industry are just like, yeah, I don't even understand how Brubaker does it. Like it's just crazy that he's the best. And like you see, like I think in the back matter, there's stuff about Pulp from like Tom King and Patton Oswalt and like so many other writers, Joe Hill, Brian K. Vaughan. Who Brian K. Vaughan refers to Ed Brubaker as his sworn nemesis. Just like such a playful rivalry against like the 2 probably most prolific and successful comic book writers alive.
Oh my gosh!
What artists did he work with on Friday?
Marcos Martin or Marcos Martin.
Marcos Martin. Yeah, that's right. Because Kayvon was just like, "How dare you take him?"
Because he's doing Spectators with Marcos Martin, I think. Yeah. That book he's doing on Substack.
Can I tell you one thing that I love about the body language in this too? It's very rare. Like when you see Max in most of the panels, the older version of Max is almost always hunched over, which really shows him as an aged man. And you don't have to jump back, but what I love about that confrontation in the subway, it's like right before he gets punched, you see him like adopt that young man physique, just standing straight up, like trying to look as big as and imposing as possible.
He's like straight as a rail right here, like literally.
Yeah. And you get that a couple of times. Like it seems like whenever he's trying to show, you know, I'm not this frail old man, especially when he's with Rosa. Like typically when he's with Rosa, he's not as hunched over. But if he's out and about, and of course later on during some of the more heisty bits, always slouched, always hunched over. Just again, brilliant characterization from Sean. Just allowing you to feel Max's age without them calling it out, you know, every 5 pages in the book.
Yeah, I mean, in this sequence too, he's just had a heart attack. He's got all of his money taken from him. He doesn't have money for a cab home, so he's just like walking. And this is like literally his most down and out he's probably been in a long time, and he just like perfectly encapsulates it with that body language. Yeah. Also, the isolation, the colors around him. And the fact that no one's paying him any attention, you know, like even in a crowded place like New York City, he still feels so isolated and lonely. Like in all of the framing. It's
But when he comes home, it gets warm, baby. Yes,
that's
it does.
right.
Yep.
Oh yeah. All the colors come back a little bit. Great.
Yeah. And like, you know, he again, like you were saying, adopts that posture. He's comfortable. He's got his jacket off.
Just a vulnerable man with his wife.
Good old Rosa.
Good old oh man. Yeah. Once again, I love a lady in an apron apparently. You know, I love Peggy when we were talking about Murder Falcon, the waitress at the bar. And now we've got Rosa. She's got her apron on. She's awesome.
She's taking care of her man.
Making some goods.
She wants
She's
a house
what do
in
you
Queens.
mean money? It's just money. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. All right, I'm gonna get myself another Guinness. Continue on. I'll catch up.
Well, this is perfect because we're getting to the next break, and once again, you know, at the beginning of the book, you get Max, and it's just the solo picture of Max, like right, kind of kicking everything off. I don't want to spoil the end. We'll get there, but it's that single panel of Max with everything else black in the background, so you focus on the context, on all the language that Ed is putting into this. And I love the fact that we get those for some key characters, and Rosa is the next one, just signifying how important she is to Max as a character, that she gets this little space for her character to breathe and for him to talk about the importance of Rosa in his life. You know, the reference to Rosa had pulled me out of a drunk over the last 10 years, or over a drunk that lasted 10 years. So something happened in his life where he talks in the book about new beginnings, and Rosa was one of those new beginnings for him. So again, just that visual storytelling along with the actual written words that just allows something to breathe.
Yeah. It's just like a photo album. That little you know, that little photo of them two on the rooftop, and then it's just like a little diary entry almost.
Well, and this is where I have to admit, as the visual storyteller, and Manny, you know, you and I are the illustrators here. There's so many times where I'm like, but there's dialogue on the page. Like, don't I need to, you know, show like Max drunk? I mean, you talk about him being, you know, drunk for 10 years.
Right.
And you know, she was a cleaning woman. Don't I need to show her cleaning something? It's like, no, dude. They just show this happy scene of Max and Rosa and just let the story flow. So that's something that I'm definitely taking away from this book. It's like, you don't have to fill the entire page with illustrations. There are times where it's okay. Like, just let the words be the words.
It's kind of just like need to know basis is what I always go back to. Just like, do we need to see this? You know, is it important? Not really. So we can skip it.
It's like, what's the actual point of the words here? I'm like, what are we doing with them?
Yeah. I think it's a stronger impact, you know, with how it is right now, with how it's displayed.
Totally.
And it does give some more context to the era that we're in, because Max talks about the fact that, you know, I think he hints, does he ever call out that Rosa is Hispanic? I don't know that he ever says it specifically about.
They speak Spanish on the rooftop.
Right. But he said, you know, sometimes she and I would speak Spanish when no one else was around. So again, you know, you pointed that out, Kev, earlier about the, you know, he is a rather tolerant guy, even though these are very intolerant times.
Yeah, I mean, it's
tolerant as a cowboy.
It's
could
definitely
be.
You know, the callback to his Mexican wife that died.
Yeah.
Which we don't even know yet, but you know, there's the early allusion to it with the idea of the Red Rock Kid or the Red River Kid moving to Mexico, which, you know, is like a very common Western trope. Is like, I'm going to get across the border from away from the law and settle down in Mexico. It's like what the end of the Wild Bunch is like literally about.
Oh yeah.
But the spoiler, you never make it to Mexico. In a good Western, you never make it to Mexico. Or if you do, you die there.
Yeah.
Hell, Red Dead Redemption 1.
Dude.
Oh
My
yeah.
God. You fight the whole army. It's insane.
It's amazing.
It's
Um,
amazing. I love that game.
We go back and see the editor now, right?
Yeah. Now we're back with Sean Phillips. This is the part that I was talking about earlier, where I feel like this is like a Stan Lee moment right here, when dude's getting replaced by Stan Lee, basically.
This is my nephew.
Yeah. It's like, what?
And then also, I love the choice of him having the heart attack chest tightening again and blurring the lettering.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Such a simple touch. Just.
He's just like, fuck. Like,
and I
Max,
love
you okay? And then in the car. Boom.
He just like looks dead basically in the car. Yeah. I had $45 to my name, and what an amazing sequence where, you know, she's dressed up. She's like, let's go out. And he's like, yeah, let's go out. You know, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, again, tying into that, like, what really matters at the end of your life is like treating your wife to a good time, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Money doesn't matter.
I mean, yeah, she even says it. She's like, it's just money. It's fine. We'll be okay. You know?
Yeah.
And he's just like, but I want to leave you something.
Right.
God.
Dude, the end of the book is so heartbreaking too when
Oh,
we'll get to that, but
yeah.
We're in the theater now and we see just what it means to be in 1939, right? We think, oh, it's a simpler time. It was okay. Well, you know, this was around when the Nazis and Hitler was rising to power. So there's the stark realization of what's going on in the bigger picture in the world.
Yeah, the Nazis marching in Times Square and, you know, the Madison Square Garden thing, all very real. There's really funny leaflets you can find, which they show in the back of this book about, you know, the Socialist Workers of America, like protesting the Nazis and stuff. But this is also at the same time that the actual early Communist Party was alive and around in New York City. You can find a lot of interesting kind of articles about communists and Nazis kind of sparring in the streets of New York at this time. Yeah.
Well, and this goes to when, you know, Kev, you were telling me about the book and you're like, oh yeah, let's do Pulp. You know, it's this crazy thing. It's this guy that he writes Westerns that are kind of self-referential, but then he fights the Nazis. And I'm like, what the hell are we talking about? Like, how do the two things go together? And, you know, again, it's just the way that Ed has set up this story and structured it. And if you think about an old Western vigilante that's wanting to do right and to take on like the next big bad, then who bigger and badder in that time in American history than the Nazis?
Right. And apparently in more times than just that time.
Well, true.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, I don't want to get political on the stream or anything. It doesn't feel like saying I hate Nazis as a political take, because like Captain America literally fought Nazis.
Nazis.
Jack Kirby fought Nazis. Like, literally, the guy that made Captain America fought Nazis, like, and he was Jewish.
The producers came out in 1968. Like, you know, I thought like, oh, we're making fun of Nazis and calling them like silly little boys. Basically, is like, you know, something that came out 50 years ago. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, got it. You know, like, why do we have to have this conversation again?
When Marvel was, or like back in the day when they had like Captain America fighting Nazis, and then they had Nazi sympathizers showing up. I mean, you remember the story of Jack Kirby, like, all right, I guess I'm fighting Nazis again today, or whatever. So let's go. Let me at him, Stan.
And I love, and we'll get into that too with the Nazis in this book, where like just that idea that there were, you know, the twist later on with the Nazis, but also just like the initial kind of ruse of the Nazis with them, like, you know, providing cash shipments to Germany, which is kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, we would just, how did we support the Nazis? We just put a bunch of money in a box and put it on a boat. Like,
when you find it's even deeper than that, right? When he uncovers the bankroll records.
Oh yeah. And then we'll get into that.
I love this sequence where he's about to have another heart attack. I couldn't catch my breath. Yeah, every
Yep.
time I tried, it got stuck in my throat like a gasp. I don't believe in God, but right then I prayed to him anyway. Please, God, don't let me have another heart attack right here in this goddamn movie theater. Let me live long enough to find a way out of this fucking trap. And like, yeah. Then he sees he sees the carrier exchange hands with the money, and he goes, and suddenly I could breathe again, because I knew what I had to do. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm okay. Like,
Just John Wick mode. Yeah.
I mean, this, like, of any of the books that Brubaker and Phillips have done, which Criminal's getting a TV show, so like exciting. But this should just be a movie. Like, you know, I just think it would work.
This would be amazing.
So well as a movie.
So good.
And like, you know, it's rare that comics would translate well, but this one would. Like, truly, like, simply and easily. Yeah. And then back to the stagecoach robberies. God, these are the colors are nuts.
It's just Breyers, man. It's just them rolling colors out on paper, and then boom, there's our color palette, and then a red shirt.
Right. Yeah.
This is daytime. This is in the saloon. This is nighttime. Robbing stuff. It's great. Amazing.
And if you don't know which character is Max, red shirt.
Yep, red shirt, red tie.
He's not wearing a vest.
Dude, can I tell you how cool it is to see him light a cigar with a dollar bill or whatever? In that bottom right-hand panel. I was just like, that just shows, you know, he was pretty flush with cash if he didn't care.
Yeah.
Shows how lucrative it was to be an outlaw back in the day.
Well, because, like, all you had to do to not get caught by police was wear a bandana around your face.
I mean, Red Dead, you can do that in Red Dead, man. It's so easy.
Yeah, like, you put on the bandana and you're like, who the fuck is that guy? I've never seen him before in my life.
Why are you wearing that? Oh, no.
Like, I forget, I think it was John Mulaney who did the bit where he was like, bank robbers would announce that they were robbing a bank. Like, they would be like, that's right, it was old Curly and the gang as they're robbing you. Like, that's how confident you were, because there was just no cameras or police reporting or anything, you know? Ugh, what a time.
Must have been nice. No.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, and him casing this. This is a little bit of inside Ed Brubaker here. The plan of planning the robbery. The planning was always my favorite part. Before you actually do the crime, it's just a mental game, a puzzle to solve. And like, I've literally heard about him saying that. Like, like, oh, I just like notice things out of the corner of my eye and like wonder like, oh, that could be a crime right there, you know? Like, just like the hypothetical. This is what crime writers do, is they just think about doing crimes.
And if you were worried about, you know, what we're getting into, feeling like a noir, you know, heist or noir like gangster thing, the colors, the oversaturation of blacks, like all these hard shadows, like this gives you just that noir crime feeling right out the gate.
Just him smoking that cigarette in the middle panel is amazing. It's like, boom, noir cover right there.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, I love the magazine he's using to obscure, you know,
spicy pirate stories.
Spicy pirate. I love it. Just the little details.
And then the snow, man. I love the coloration on the snow. Just that splatter.
Yep.
Yes, I was sure no one would ever see it coming, but as it turns out, I was wrong. And then a guy's just like, "Don't do that. Don't."
Are you kidding me? Stop. That's great.
Jeremiah Goldman, which I suppose is another beginning to this story. Boom.
Yeah. Man, I love the looking at that panel at the bottom there, and just looking at the background, how it's just like squiggles for the people walking in the background, and like a head here or there.
The two dots for eyes just on one random person back there is really fun.
Because again, I mean, when you think about where the story leads, can it essentially be Max telling his last story, right? So background becomes this memory, and the more we're getting closer to the end, the more I see that's Sean is doing those very loose backgrounds. They're not as, highly detailed as what he's doing with some of the earlier pages. So, I mean, I don't know if he's doing it intentionally, if he's doing it because he's like, "Oh, dude, I love this book. Like, we got to get this book out." I don't know. But that's
could be
at least
that
how
too.
I'm gonna read it, right?
Yeah. I'm spending too much time on this damn page.
Get this thing out.
It's been 2 minutes. I can't. God, I need to go.
I need more pages.
Yeah.
The bar scene, great.
Yep. Revealed.
Good old Jeremiah.
And in case you were worried, are we going to get any more Western references or well-known Western references? Apparently, Jeremiah was one of the Pinkertons. So,
one
of the well-known Western.
Look at that hat.
Yeah, dude, that's a Pinkerton hat for sure. And I love that, he sets him up how he's like, I've been chasing you. Here's your wanted poster. I worked for the Pinkertons. I was close to catching you. He's like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to help you with? And he's like, help me pull a robbery. Another great misdirection, just playing with that expectation. And they give that context of like, how did you know I was even looking for that? Like looking to rob that guy. And
and I can tell you, once again, this is where Max knows, like, this is one of the guys that was hunting me. He is never looking at Jeremiah head on in many of these shots. I think you can kind of infer once or twice. The majority of the time, Max is looking out the side of his eye. Like, I'm not too sure about this. I just love the body language on these pages and in these panels.
That's actually kind of a Brubaker and Phillips staple, is lots of side eye and shadiness. And then when someone finally has like a point to make or something real to say, you get that dead on close up. Like you get an actual facing the camera close up. And it's a formula that works every time. Like,
before we get into the
fucking Nazis and he's looking straight into the camera. Like that panel rules.
What a great button. Yeah. What a great button on this.
Yeah.
Silo Billy in Manny's chat asked if this is a series we did. No.
Oh, no. I wish, man.
I'm not this good.
This is a book by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They are a duo that have been making comics together for like 20 plus years, probably. Won several awards, top of their game.
Yeah, we're just doing a deep dive on it. Appreciating
like I said, you could go spend a lot of money on, the copy that Manny has, which is the gorgeous process edition. Or you could, go be a cheapie like I did and pick it up at a local comic book store right now as a second printing. Mine has the Will Eisner winner seal on it. So, whose edition is better?
I don't think the process was really that bad. It was only like $50, right?
Yeah, let me see.
And
it is 40 actually.
Yeah, I mean the trade was $12.99, so very affordable. I mean, and again, it's a pretty short graphic novel, like all things considered. I think it clocks in probably just at around 100 pages.
Really? I thought it was probably less than that, but I mean, I didn't count the pages. So
yeah, I mean, the graphic novels don't have page numbers, so
you didn't do your research. So
I don't know. Well, what about you, Ben? Did you count all the pages?
Like Kev said, around 100, sure.
100 sounds right. I mean, it might be a little bit lower. It's probably between 80 and 100 is my guess.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, regardless of how short it is, I think, being the newbie to this, I'm so happy you guys said, let's do this one next, because there's so many storytelling devices, both written and visual, that if you're wanting to make something that's compelling and engaging, like this is a fantastic way to do it in a different style than what we've covered the past couple of weeks, right? I think this is amazing.
Actually, I think it's 67 pages.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you crush through it.
I'm just looking at I'm looking at the pencils right now, and they're all labeled. I looked at the last page, said 67. So yeah. Or wait.
Because they were definitely less ambitious with their early graphic novels, like the standalone graphic novels. It was this and My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies. And Junkies was probably like maybe 100 pages, 100 and no more than 120. The Reckless books are like 150, and like Night Fever is probably somewhere between 120 and 150. So
yeah, this is a short book.
Yeah, they're such satisfying reads. I mean, they do, like, to be fair, they do make a lot of their money from bookstores, not comic book stores. I mean, they do make most of their money from comic book stores still. I think it's like something like 41% or something. And then I think they get like a quarter of their profits just from like Barnes and Noble and shit like that.
That's crazy.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, you know,
yeah,
like their books, they're amazing at comic books. I'm never going to say otherwise, but like they are some of the most approachable. Like if you say, I don't read comic books, but I really like this stuff. Like this seems like very accessible to people who are not into comics. And that's a strength to itself. Some comic books are just too comic booky. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Like the Time Police. You guys should go read it. So we get that we're going to go after Nazis, which I think is amazing. And I love, do we know if this is a real leaflet? The workers of New York stop the fascists.
Yes, that's in the back.
Okay. I thought that was, I couldn't tell if it was a scan in the back that they had done, or if that was just like them kind of recreating it again. But I thought that was cool. I love including, pieces of history. So that was awesome seeing that show up.
Yeah, he mentioned he did a ton of research for this. So that tracks. Which just here's your writing advice. If you're a writer, do your damn research. Don't just try to write talking out of your ass. Writing is good. Reading is good. If you want to write good, you got to read good, and you got to do your research. If you're going to talk about something, you better know what you're talking about. Make it feel real, because even if I don't know anything, if I hypothetically didn't know anything about Nazis in the 1930s and whatever, I could still tell when he was feeding me bullshit and when it was being real. You as a reader instinctively have that. You can tell when someone's bullshit. So do your research.
Yeah.
Manny knows. I have like a textbook on Satan and a textbook on black metal that I use for the black metal book.
It's true. I've seen it. It's scary. It floats and stuff. I don't know. I stay away from it.
I conjure demons. That I've held seances. I've sacrificed my firstborn. So guys, if you want to be taken seriously as a writer, you have to make sacrifices.
Sacrifice.
Okay, so it's just for a writer, so I don't have to worry about sacrificing any of my children to be a decent artist. Okay.
No, I don't know what the fuck you guys do.
Okay.
Oh man, that's great.
What, you guys like crayons? Is that what's going on over there? I don't know.
Yeah, we just cry a lot.
Yeah, a lot of tears.
A lot. We get bald very fast. Yep.
A lot of hair
pulling. Lots of that. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
Sometimes it's fun, but anyway.
I love hearing some of the old language that I would assume this is something, but typically when there's a lot of effing and jeffing in this book, but talking about the Jeremiah referencing the dude that lives in the same building as him, he calls the guy a shit heel, and I'm like, oh my god, I love like that needs to come back. Somebody bring the term shit heel back. Like that's so good.
We're starting that today.
Again, and then tying back into that cowboy morality, that frontier justice, like it's up to your protagonist, your gunslinger type of guy. Especially even with, the Pinkerton man being a symbol of law and order, but now he's turned to frontier justice because there's this Nazi who's being a piece of shit in his building. Like,
yeah,
just those themes. Yeah. They keep coming back.
So good.
So good.
And this is where we find out they're loading boxes and Jeremiah.
They're mailing cash in a boat.
Yep. Shipping it back to Germany.
It's just I love this sequence so much on the next page, man. Where that night that night I tell Rosa I'll be doing some research for the next few days, a new story. Then I lie awake most of the night listening to her snoring. My mind drifts back, wandering through memories of all the people I've ever loved. I feel old heartbreaks tearing open again, like I'm right back inside those moments. And I remember the days with Spike and the rest of our gang, all the times I was sure Spike would get shot for his reckless ways. And just before I finally fall asleep, I'm wishing I could visit his grave one more time. But I know that I'm never going back to Mexico. What a
there it is.
Fucking page, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, that just all the silhouettes of people, his child, his wife, probably his mama, his brother. Yeah. It's just like all in there, dude.
That's right. I was looking at that. I was like, is that he got with an old lady? And I was like, no, that's his mom.
That's his mama. Come on now.
Yeah.
Brock said I call people shit heels on a weekly basis. Is that a Texas thing? Is that just like some cowboy shit?
I hope so.
I assume it is a term that comes from back in the day when you were, cowboy boots. Cowboy boots had the thick heels on them. You step in some horse manure, yep. And then you got shit on your heel. And who's lower than shit on your heel? I don't know. A bunch of shit heels.
Oh, I love
nighttime.
I love this panel, splitting the two binoculars, like the two eyes of the binoculars into fucking two panels. Oh,
and it's a moment where he's alone, then there's someone out there. It's a nice little bit right there. I like that. Gosh.
Kind of settling back into that slick crime style rather than the Western right here. Like,
yeah.
This is a Batman sequence. Like,
Really.
And
I was gonna say that panel seemed like pretty even, like he was like dissecting them pretty evenly here, but I don't know. He might just be eyeballing that panel a little bit. But...
Just anyway, that also reminds me too. I really like the way he offsets his panels so that there's not like clean, even lines across. Like he doesn't split these into like the neat thirds that you would always expect.
Yeah, he does like the 1, 2, 3 like on top of each other, like, but everything else is pretty broken up.
Just it's that rhythm. It's the pacing that your eye is going to kind of track across the page and give different weight to different moments. It's these little things that just communicate absolute mastery of the craft. Page over page, panel over panel. It's just Lord.
Chef's kiss.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, sorry, my pages are they get really sticky when I open them. They're all crusted together. I just love this book so much.
Oh, we do get we get when they're walking down the sidewalk together, discussing the plan after they staked out the next night. And once again, Max has got the trademark red. It's not a tie, but he's got that red peeking out through the overcoat.
Little scarf.
It's the ascot bandana that he's gonna pull up.
Yeah. I know.
And wear during the robbery.
Again, that homage to the Red Rock Kid.
We're going back.
And they have this like discussion about morality and that frontier justice, like again, like that just that idea of, you know, the Pinkertons like, I killed that guy because he was an asshole and like he's a monster and he deserved it. And, you know, Max just doesn't really seem bothered by it. He's just like, no, we're just murderers. Like, and this is just what we do. Like, this is the way that the world works, is people just kill each other. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah. He's just accepted it, that it's just evil. We just live with it. Basically. Super pessimistic.
I mean, it's hard to feel optimistic when the Nazis are on the rise in New York City, you know?
I mean, yeah. For sure. And you just got beat up. Your money's been taken from you. You know, things aren't looking good.
I love the sequence on the next page where they're walking back in. They see the girl who's been abused, and it's just that black guy. And giving her color and life in that panel is like a nice touch. The purple really stands out.
You mean the jacket, not the black guy?
Yeah, but it does make the shiner really pop though. Good. You know, the jacket makes the eye pop.
It's just so sad that, of course, it's the state of things, right? And the fact that Max asks, "Is that Franny?" He's like, "Yeah, you can tell by the black eye." It's like, oh my god, for that to just be, you know, yep, you can tell she's abused. That's the one.
That's it. Gosh.
But then when, you know, prepping on the next page, when it transitions to them actually getting ready for this job, that red creeps in. It starts to creep in at the top, but then it's just fully red in its color palette down here. And that is like, we're back on our outlaw shit. Because the last time you saw these like washes of warm color, it was the Old West, you know? It was all the flashback sequences. And now it's like, nope, it's coming right back. And this is what the mood is now. Love that.
Well, it's all the tension too, right? Because you're building up to what they're going to do and the tension that's going on there. And you do get it intercut with shots of the protest that's going on outside of Madison Square Garden and the tension that's building there. And it's just, I agree with you, Kev. Like that red, it's the intensity, it's the feeling, the emotion, like stuff's going down, like shit's going down.
Yeah. Things are about to get chaotic.
Yep.
And chaotic they get, especially with the cross-cutting of the Nazi rally and like the police force actually going on, like the protesters getting violent and cutting right back
to violence.
Yeah.
They woke up this morning, they chose violence. That's what happened.
I love that. Hey, old man, you lost or something? No, I'm not. Because I was having fun. And it's just like, bang. So good.
Screw you. He's like, shit.
And then that like even harsher kind of obvious red here, it just goes a long way to make that panel stand out again. Like the panel where you get punched by the Nazis in the beginning.
Yeah.
That bam, that bright red. Shut your trap, goose stepper is great. I mean, because this is where the plan goes totally off the rails. Like obviously when the first shot is fired, that's when, you know, all hope is lost on a job. Like that's you've gone past the point of no return. But not only that, it's when he's pushed to that point because he sees a Nazi and he's hungry for blood and he's like, I'm going for it now. Like now all bets are off the table and I'm killing Nazis. Like, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Fuck Nazis.
What are you doing? Let's go. But come on, and just bam, blows the door open, just like so great. And it's just all bets are off. The timid old men are no longer. It's just like now we're just gonna start plugging holes in people. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know this was gonna happen tonight, man. And then he's just like figuring out, piecing the shit together on the next page. Like, where's the money, man? You just see pamphlets everywhere. He's like, what are you talking about? And it's like, I found it.
Cover me. I just need a minute.
Yeah.
And I love the shot from inside the vault with just a stack of papers. That's a great shot. The shotgun looming in the background.
It's so good. And then he starts reaching for his heart. We need to leave.
But then when the realization finally hits me, I just think, of course, why would I trust a fucking Pinkerton? And I almost want to laugh. Like I said, it's funny. But then my heart is pounding in my head again, loud, and I'm sweating. And this room is just another place where I don't want to die.
Oh God, so bleak.
It's rhythm, pacing of the writing, and just moving panel to panel there. Oh yeah. That's just the stuff. Put that shit right in my veins, boys. Whoo.
And then I completely relate to Max. Like when they're getting the hell out of there, it's like, you know, Jeremiah says run. And you just get the inner monologue on the next page where Max is like, run, he says, the son of a bitch. There's no running in the plan. I'm like, that would be me. It's like we never talked about running. Why am I doing this? This is terrible.
No shooting either.
Yeah, there's supposed to be no shooting and no running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you said, Manny, that Sean wanted to draw horses. Like he wanted to do a bunch of horses and didn't want to draw cars. But
and then he's got a whole segment where there's cars. There's a car chase.
But it's so gorgeous. Like I'm so
really
glad
is.
he did because it does. Yeah. It gives such. Now we get a real feel for the city and just how hectic and chaotic it can be.
But look at how many cars are actually in this car chase. You get a half shot of a car, a shot from the inside of the car, just a window. There's a full car shot. Back to the window. About 2/3 of a car. No car. Then you got like 3 cars. Back to half a car. And then just a wheel. Like that's how you do a car chase if you don't like drawing cars.
That's true. But I mean, talk about how just again adding to the chaos. He doesn't take 4 pages to draw a car chase. It's like, no, this shit was crazy. It was hectic. 2 pages of a car chase. We're done. Like we don't need to dwell on. Oh, I made this turn and I got to show like people diving out of the way. It's like no, it's a freaking chaos.
Yeah.
I also just love the subtle Dutch angle on this like shot of the car here. And like the wheels are just popping off the ground. It's just skidding a little bit. It's like just the slightest things you can do to really add that frenetic kind of motion and animation to what you're seeing here. Again, efficiency. How he does so much with just such a little kiss of a change, Just great. And then, of course, wheels up, just totally off the ground, smashed into the car here. And then the coloring here with just the bright white blotchy mess of all the headlights, like a little bit of blue sprinkled in
if you
there.
want impact, if you want something to say that this car is going fast, you take it off the ground.
That's right.
That's a rule for cars right there.
Those back wheels come up.
Yeah, I mean that's what Frank Miller mentioned about drawing cars in Sin City. Is like it started to get cars got fun when I turned the car into a character by like making it leap off the ground and shit. So, I mean, Sean Phillips is basically doing that here a little bit, not as animated as Frank Miller maybe, but.
Well, you got to think too. Like, what old like Oldsmobile or Ford was out there that was gonna like get airborne, right?
Hey man, we could put ramps in the city. It's okay.
They had those.
Well, it's like that whole bit in Harley Quinn, like the animated show where she builds like the highway that goes like up into the sky and like wraps around. There's like ramps and death traps and shit. Dude, and the next page with the actual him, like now he's like had his heart attack and he's like worried that he's dying here.
Yep.
And it's 1 page that he tells everything that happened once he got down to Mexico. Like, how good is this? Like, we got away, but down in Mexico, I thought I found that escape I was looking for, raised my child, and then I thought that's how life was meant to be. Spike didn't like it. Nope, he drank himself to death in 1915, just a few years before the influenza came and took everything away. And that's it. That's the story. You're like, yep, I was married, I had a wife and kid, and now they're dead because of the flu. And that's it. Like, the amount you read into that, just simple pairing of lines, is so good. So much with so little. Just what storytelling?
Just those key moments too. Just like with his brother or with Spike, then with his family, then alone, drinking, and then just blur sound, and then black. Now he's waking up. But man, I mean, even the texture on that shit too. Ugh. I can't get over that. It looks so good.
Even the way that he uses like kind of those paint like color values to like show the like fluorescent light shadows.
Yeah,
it's just
that
really
was one
nice.
thing that he kept in mind was the light, like hitting and stuff. I mean, he wasn't like super detailed with it, but that was considered when putting in the those broad strokes of like brayer marks and stuff.
Yeah, even on this guy's face, like Goldman's face with the discoloration in the cheeks and stuff, as if like the light is hitting him there, is just like such a subtle, nice touch. It's just elegant. It's again masters of the craft here. You're looking at it, and it all happened here in this book.
Yeah. That's what happens when your dad is awesome and teaches you some things.
That's right. And then he's like, "Hey, why don't you come help me? Like, why don't you do this? You can do it."
It's like, all right, I guess.
I wish Sean Phillips was my dad.
Yeah, no
right.
I'd take Jacob. What, Jacob? Will you adopt me? I'll be your proto child. You have,
Fuck, I'll take Ed. Ed, can you?
Please. Or you have your 3-year-old that's gonna make comics.
Ed, teach me your ways.
This is where like we find the con behind the con, right? The fact that Goldman needed a second, and he's like, I didn't think, if I didn't tell you there was money there, I figured you wouldn't do it. So, but we do find out that's where all the accounting for the Nazis were, the Nazis that were in the U.S. But Goldman's not as much of a jerk as Max, continues to think he might be, and we find out that he was still thinking of Max the whole time, which I think is fantastic. You get the reveal of that house you were talking about, got you covered. Here's a couple $1,000 as well to set you and the missus up.
Yep. And then Max goes on a mission.
Oh man,
that part.
I mean, and also like this shot. I'm assuming this is Jeremiah here.
Oh yeah,
but I find myself thinking about Jeremiah Goldman. I can't hold a grudge on him for lying or maybe giving me a second heart attack, and it's not just because of the house and the money. The anger.
But this is the most heartbreaking is the left side.
Yeah,
like the left side of that page. I love the Goldman page because once again you get that photo, and we get backstory. It's the third character that they've focused on, and so you get more background to Goldman. But that middle panel shot of the idyllic life of Max living out the rest of his days in the hammock with Rosa, I'm like, oh god, that's where it should be, right? That's where we should end this book.
But he's like, I'm not going to last that long. It needs to go all to her.
Because
he's like,
well, it's also this parallels the Mexico thing. You think Queens is just Mexico in this instance, but it's like you think that you can just go home with your wife and go to Mexico, but that's not how these stories end. That's not how it works. And truly, if the book ended here, you wouldn't like it. Like honestly, it wouldn't feel good. And so what happens? But we got to kill some damn Nazis.
Okay.
Well, something sparks that idea,
right?
And it's because our dear friend who set us up has been killed by a fucking Nazi.
But I love
he just Goldman. He just fell down the stairs. He just fell down the stairs.
Right. Yeah. When I read this the first time, I was like, what?
It just never ends for this guy, and that's got to be the pattern with these stories. Is that it's just relentless, it's like Spider-Man.
Oh, you thought that was over? No, we're gonna hit even lower. We're gonna hit even lower, and we're gonna rub your face in the dirt. Just fuck. Yeah. So, gotta do that.
We do get a heroic moment from a character that's not Max. Like we get Franny, who is willing to actually tell the truth. Now, she probably didn't tell it to the paramedics, but
nope,
she tells it to Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it was almost like, Jeremiah was ready. Like he left this stuff behind specifically for Max. The name of the bar, all of the gear, the name of the guy. And there's nothing elegant to what he does. He just walks in and he's just on his outlaw shit,
I love it.
Dude, yeah. He's just like, oh, I'm here for this guy. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, go in.
Hi, Hitler. Hi, Hitler. I just think of that one scene.
Jojo Rabbit. Hi, Hitler.
Hi, Hitler. Yeah, because if you weren't sure that this was a bad bar, I mean, you've got the...
You got the banners everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
How do these people?
Right,
everyone in here needs to... There needs to be the Quentin Tarantino moment, and it's coming.
Oh, dude, I love the Quentin Tarantino moment in this book. It's so good.
Oh man, just off with his head. Boom.
Well, also,
hey,
like,
you think you have a face? Not anymore.
Bye.
The touch talking the last bit about. See, when I used to tell my daughter about my outlaw days, I always made me and her Uncle Spike out like we were somehow the good guys, like the Robin Hood of the frontier.
Yeah.
And when I write my stories, I do the same thing, partly because it's like I'm still talking to her, but I'm surrounded by all my other ghosts who know the truth. And then, bam, the violence starts. We weren't heroes, we were killers. That's why we survived.
You just see that grin on his face when he says that we were killers. He's like, as he's killing people.
What an iconic line. This panel should be in a fucking museum because this world belongs to the monsters, and the blood splatter and the gritted teeth and all the guns pointed at him. He's going out in his blaze of glory. He didn't even give a shit. And then tie it back to him as the Western. I mean, these two just together, these panels.
Yeah.
Fuck off, dude. This is so good. Oh.
And we get the last final splash page. I mean, that full page shot with the dead bodies, and he's, Max has been shot a few times, but he's not going out with his eyes rolled in the back of his head. Like, he's on the ground, just taking those last few seconds.
Yep.
And then what a fucking iconic way to end a book. Anyway, that's how it all happened.
Yeah. Just nonchalantly, it's just like...
Whoa. Oh.
Tying all the way back to the very first shot we see of Max, right? Like, wow, this old dude's got blood all over him. How'd that happen? Oh, well, there we go.
Anyway, that's how it all happened. And I love the touch. This is just like after the splash, just like a page of black. It's a nice touch, I think.
Manny's is so much cooler. Dude, Manny, turn your page.
Huh?
When you turn the page, yours is red.
Yeah, mine's red.
I love the blood red. Kevin, I get black, so everything goes to black.
Yeah. So it's red for pages, and then it's the afterword.
Yeah, I want to see that afterward. Let me just leave that open so I can read through it a little bit.
Yes, can you hold it up closer? Can you kind of scroll down, like give us the Star Wars scroll?
There you go.
Enhance.
But yeah, just talking about the process and stuff on this.
Dude, I love all the stuff that is at the beginning of the book, talking through the script, talking through all the process that goes into it, and his afterword is like 3 paragraphs.
It's like, I make comics.
What's funny too is that he just like talks about how after he finishes a thing and then starts another one, he's like, I don't know how to write. He just gets hit with that imposter syndrome. I feel like we all do, right? When we're starting another thing, or maybe we're stuck on something, and that feeling comes up. It doesn't escape when you're a pro. You're always going to feel like that. So you just need to power through it and finish the book.
Yeah, because if one of the best living comic writers feels that way, you're not special. I mean that in the most loving and respectful way. Yeah.
Hayao Miyazaki was pulling his hair out because he couldn't draw an airplane the way he wanted to draw it for The Wind Rises. and he couldn't animate that bit because he couldn't draw that specific airplane at that angle or whatever. And there's literally an HBO documentary, you can watch it, about him, and he is literally pulling his hair out.
Documentary so good.
Scene. Yeah. So everyone goes through it. So just want to throw that out there.
But man, what
a good
ass book.
You see all the projects that they worked on at the back there too.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a lot of these. That's right. They did the deluxe hardcovers of Criminal as well, which I don't need, but I want.
I want them.
I have all of them in trades.
I want them so bad.
There's 7 of them. Like, there's 7 trades.
It's crazy. So much stuff, man.
This is just their creator-owned books. This isn't even everything they've done in their careers.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Phillips did Marvel Zombies as well.
With Robert Kirkman.
Yeah. So they've done a lot of stuff out there.
Oh, whoa, hold on, go back. I want to see those faces at the end. Is that the inner cover?
Oh, the inner cover. Yeah. This is what I was talking about, is like the design of this book, filled with just like sketches and inked bits and stuff. So I just think it's beautiful. I love that. Because I think Murder Falcon is pretty similar, or at least like the first volume that came out, it had like black and white sketches and stuff on the end pages.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Dude, I get such a Tim Sale vibe from these back pages.
Yeah. They're great, man. I mean, you just see those strokes. Just like one stroke, boom, there's a chin. Another stroke, boom, there's the bridge of the freaking nose. So good. He's just thinking like a painter, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then back cover, and then we see the inked version of that photograph on the back cover.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's so good.
Oh yeah. Good stuff.
Man, what a damn good book.
Sounds like number one, Kev, Manny, if you guys ever have any other recommendations, I'm on board, because Pulp is fantastic. So thank you so much for introducing me to Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. What a powerhouse creative team.
Dude, yeah.
They don't miss.
They don't, man. They don't.
Yeah, I mean, I always say one of my life goals truly is to put people onto comics like that wouldn't normally read them, because there's such a wealth of incredible stories. And that is true for Big 2 books. There is a lot of stuff in there that is really, really good, regardless if you like superheroes or not. But it is much easier to get someone on board to read something like this.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I love the crazy sword and sorcery, high fantasy stuff. Of course, I love the hyper violent, weird shit that comics produces, really out there stuff. But like, truly, if you need to be convinced to read a comic book, if you had to read one comic book in your life, read this book. It's amazing. Like, read these guys. Like, this is so accessible. It's so good. It's fun. It'll make you want to read more.
If you're a creator out there too, pick this book up. You literally get everything. You get the process, you get the script, you get the thumbnails, you get a how-to on how to make a book, essentially. And then you get the book at the very end. Like, this is exactly the thing that I would love to do, is just like show world building, show process, show a whole bunch of stuff, and then show the books at the end. Like, this was literally an idea that I had. And then these guys, they do it with this book. They go over everything. So, take out your notebook, take some notes, and just start on a mini comic, dude. Do 8 pages. Start with 8 pages. You don't need to do this 67 thing. You could just do 8. And be like, all right,
it's so affordable. It's so affordable. I mean, even if you don't want all the bells and whistles, which, by the way, It's $40. I already have the trade, so I'm gonna go buy the process edition. Like I have to. That is absolutely gorgeous, and for $40, amazing. But yeah, 12.99, Kev.
Yeah, $12.99 for the trade.
Dude, if you're looking for a book to be on your shelf that you can just read and enjoy anytime you want, $13 for just a fantastic piece of pulp, if you will. Awesome. It is fantastic. I'm so glad that you guys said let's do this one. This is awesome. I'm gonna read this thing until the pages are like smudged and smeared. Like this is so good.
This would be fun to get signed if we ever meet them in person.
God, I want to meet them in person so bad.
Like, yeah.
I'll let you guys talk. I wouldn't know what to say, but I love your book.
Oh, that's probably what I'd just probably start crying. Honestly, I wouldn't actually have anything to say. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Because I'm just like, hey guys, can you sign this? This is sick.
No, it's just like, yeah. I truly don't even know what to say. I'm a big fan of Jalen Twitch's first comment here. We should do a Steven Seagal parody called Plump and make every page just him sitting in a chair and slap fighting enemies.
Such a great idea.
Look, yeah, we can definitely do some Steven Seagal fan comics. I'd be really into that, honestly.
He was talking about doing a Godzilla versus Steven Seagal.
That's so good.
It's basically just Ultra Mega, but Steven Seagal fights the kaiju.
Yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what I think would be really funny is that like if you don't make his moves very impressive, like he's just like fat and labored, but like when he does like a little like kind of shitty little like karate chop, like their heads just explode. You know, like he's just really good at fighting, but it just looks like pathetic and lazy. That would be really fun.
There's no like contortion to the face; it's straight Steven Seagal face, annoyed.
He's just saying like like ridiculous non sequiturs, like "get out of here," and he's just, people's heads are exploding. He's like, "Enough of that, cut it out." It's just like
you're losing your head. Yeah,
it's like too lazy to even be a one-liner. He's like, "Not on my watch." Just like, or just even
I'll show you karate. I know how to do karate.
I've been studying karate for like 45 years.
Nah.
Or dude, not even just have him sitting in the chair, cross hands and stuff, and everyone's flying around him and put the sound effects around him, but he's not moving.
So good.
He's just sitting in the chair. Kapow, ka-ching, kapow.
Just heavily breathing. And there's just like onomatopoeias around him, just like whoosh, bang, bah. I don't know.
So, Kev, you were bringing up the Gotham book earlier. Which one was that again?
It's called
Gotham Central.
Gotham Central.
Gotham Central.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're looking for a more like big two version of like a crime noir, Gotham Central, and I wanted to throw this one out there because as we were reading through this, it made me feel another big two book. It's another DC book, but they did Gotham City Year One by Tom King, Phil Hester, Eric Gapster, and Jordi Belair. I picked up issue 1 thinking, yeah, we'll see. They've done a lot of year ones recently. But I have to say, such a fantastic Gotham noir. So if you want something that's also kind of put in the DC universe, Gotham Central or Gotham City Year One.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm not a big two.
If you want some more Brubaker on big two, his Captain America run is like definitive. Prisoner of War is a great arc. The Death of Captain America is huge. Everything he did with the Winter Soldier. He created the Winter Soldier, for those of you who don't know that. And is like partially responsible for, why the Winter Soldier movie is like the best Marvel movie.
And he has a cameo in it.
He does have a cameo as one of the scientists in the underground bunker. Yeah. When they've got the Winter Soldier like tied up in the chair and they're like in the underground lab, he's just like a guy standing in the background. He has no lines. He's just standing there. Like, it's so weird, honestly. If you watch that scene without any context, you're like, why is this guy just like in focus. Like, what is this bald guy just like doing back there? That's Ed Brubaker. He's like wearing an ill-fitting shirt. It's just like so out of place. It's amazing. And
it's
he's
good
also
to know. I don't need another reason to watch Winter Soldier because it is one of my favorite Marvel movies, but there, I have yet another reason to watch.
Yeah, I think I've said this before, but like when I was a kid, I read a lot of Captain America, and I did not pay attention to who was making it at all. I was just like, I read Civil War, and I was like, Captain America's cool.
Dude,
and then I read a
funny.
bunch of Captain America, and then 10 years later, 15 years later, I'm just getting balls deep into Ed Brubaker's books. And I'm like, what else has this guy done? And I'm like looking through his like Wikipedia, and it's like, he did definitive runs on Captain America. And I was like, when did those come out? And then I looked at the timeline and I was like, oh my God, no wonder he's my favorite comic book writer. I was obsessed with his books without knowing who he was 10 years ago at age like 11, 12 or whatever. And it was just like blew my mind.
Yeah, I remember when you realized that.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, no way! It was like me figuring out that Mastodon was on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack as well. I was like, I've been obsessed with them since Tony Hawk days.
so many bands where you're like, I love that band. Oh my God, I know why. It's because I used to listen to it for hours and hours every day.
Hours and hours, AFI and stuff, God.
But we did it. We actually did a stream that was under 2 hours long, so I feel confident in actually cutting it here.
Yeah. We made it, boys.
Yeah, let's do that.
Stop. Thank you very much. Yeah, follow us on social at Mouth Breathers Guild. Check the links in my Twitch. Check the links in Mandy's Twitch. Join our Discord if you want to keep talking comics. Have a direct line to us. We answer all the time. We nerd out about whatever's going on. Talk about our pulls. Talk about what we like. Right. You can, if you're an artist, share your art. We'll talk to you about it. We'll show you process things. We'll nerd out. If you like comic books, wrestling, music, movies, video games, whatever it is, we'll ramble. We'll gab on.
Here's some of our books. It's Renowned.
Oh yeah, I got mine too. Let me pull that up.
Got Renowned there, our collected anthology. Got little mini comics. You may have come across one of these in the world. Who knows? And then I also got some other mini comics I've made in the past. And you can check my stuff out at The Manny Draws on YouTube, on Instagram, on the Twitch, and then you can check out Kevin's stuff at Kiwi Spicy on Instagram.
Right. Kiwi Spice on Instagram, Mouth Breathers Guild on YouTube, Mouth Breathers Guild Discord. Just flipping through the Renowned book. If you like Monster of the Week stories, you like high concept sci-fi, fantasy, guys getting together and killing monsters, goofy shit, fun pulp comic book stuff, check this out. I think you'll like this book a lot. Me and Manny put a lot of work into these. Our online store, I think, has officially gone down, so if you want to get one of these, you just DM us or hit us up on Discord. We'll make sure you get one. Also, no, I'm not going to say that because it's not official yet. Never mind.
Well, so I'll throw mine out there. So
Ben,
you want to see my personal Instagram, Ben_Hill_art on Insta. Also at the _Time Police on Instagram. We're getting ready to release our third part of the Time Police story. So make sure to pay attention. We're looking at releasing that around Valentine's Day because the Time Police is really a bromance. So if you want to celebrate bromance, then come hang out with us around Valentine's Day. Also, we do have a Redbubble shop. So if you want some Time Police merch, you can go out to Redbubble and look up the _Time Police. We've got stuff out there that if you want a cool I Love Justice coffee mug, which is featured in the comic book, you can get yourself one of those. Yeah. And I do Twitch. I stream on Saturdays. So I know while everybody else is much younger than me and cooler and out hanging out with friends, I stay at home and I draw. So if you're at home, around 9 o'clock or later, because I tend to draw for a while, come hang out.
Ooh, Discord link, Brock. It should be on my Twitch profile. If it's not, let me make sure I can get it.
If it's not, Kev screwed up.
Well, it should be on there, but it's been a while since I checked my links. Sometimes they go out. Let me look at my profile. Make sure this works.
Oh yeah, Jalen, come hang out. Come hang out. That would be awesome. Maybe I'll have to draw an old fat Steven Seagal slapping Godzilla or something.
Oh yeah, it's connected to my Twitch profile. It should pull up.
Yeah, mine is too.
Yeah,
it's on mine as well. So.
If you go to @themannydraws, it should be there. It's on our link tree as well, which is on our Instagram. So
yeah, so I have all the links on the about the Manny Draws section on Twitch. So.
And like Kev said, come talk wrestling because there's lots of good stuff going on right now in the world of pro wrestling. So
hell yeah, let's go.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for hanging out, y'all. We will catch you all later.
Yeah, I gotta take a shower. I'm stinky.
Stinky boy.
What a great note to end on.